here today on the Monday because of the significance and importance of what we have to bring to you, members of the media, in particular and by extension, the Liberian people. Today's press briefing will be addressed by the management of the Liberia Electricity Corporation, and today the LEC management will speak on the entity's current status and the provision of affordable and accessible electricity to its customers. Also in attendance will be Attorney Daryl Ambrose Ma, Senior, a very good friend of mine, Director of Communications at the Judiciary Branch, Republic of Liberia, and Attorney Ma will update the public on proceedings at the court, if you like, from the judicial sector. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we've come a long way. First of all, I must say to you that you've done an awesome job so far, but normally we do not have these special occasions, and so today is an exception, and it tells you that we have great significance and importance attached to this. I have the honor, most singular honor, if you like, to invite to the podium my boss, the Honorable Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, Honorable J. Lejahu Rennie, who will do the housekeeping, from whence we'll invite to the podium our guests that I just told you about. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, Honorable Rennie.
Good afternoon to you, our distinguished colleagues of the media, and good afternoon to all of you listening to us on whatever radio or medium you're listening through. Let me break the protocol today to say that because of time and the other extra activities of the management team of the Liberia Electricity Corporation, I will defer that my own briefing and allow now for Mr. Pascal Berkeley, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Liberian Electricity Corporation, to come to the podium and do his presentation to you members of the media. You will do a few questions to him, and then we'll proceed thereafter. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, Deputy Minister, all of the delegates here today, and of course members of the press corps, good afternoon. My name is Pascal Berkeley, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Liberia Electricity Corporation. Firstly, as I start, I suppose it's appropriate that I thank His Excellency President George Manawiya and the Government of Liberia for their unflinching support of LEC over the past years. This has been demonstrated by the passing into law of the Power Theft Act, and of course by the government's commitment to maintaining its LEC electricity account up to date, which funds the day-to-day operations of LEC, and without which we could not function. Without this support, today's announcements would be possible, and in fact it would be meaningless. Secondly, let me extend sincere thanks to the Honourable Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism for hosting today's press event. Thank you very much, Minister. Before I embark on the main business of today, let me address the recent arrest of an LEC security officer, which I'm sure you're all well aware of. While the matter is now with the prosecution services, it is nonetheless worthy of mention at this time. I am of course disappointed that allegations of power theft will be levelled against any member of LEC staff, let alone a security officer charged with protecting the assets of the company. However, my disappointment is tempered by gratitude to His Excellency President Mia for his Power Theft Act, which has made power theft and related activities a criminal offence, thus making Wednesday's intervention possible. Last Wednesday's arrest marks a change in LEC's approach to power theft, and it's a successful result of intelligence-led action by officers of the LEC Revenue Protection Unit, supported by the Liberian National Police. I would particularly like to thank the following for their support in prosecuting last Wednesday's arrest. First of all, the people of Pecos Island community, who have suffered for many years and have decided that enough is enough and have come forward. Secondly, the Liberian National Police, who are most supportive to us. The County Attorney, who was also most supportive and instrumental in the actions on last Wednesday. The Honourable Minister for Justice, who we reached out to and responded very, very quickly. The Honourable Minister of Finance and Development Planning, the Honourable Minister of Mines and Energy, and the entire LEC support who have been continuously supportive of LEC's fight against power theft since the beginning. Of course, we have our own LEC people as well, our own legal counsel, who has been spearheading Wednesday's activities. And lastly, but by no means least, the men and women of LEC's Revenue Protection Unit, and the majority of LEC staff who act with integrity and honour, defined themselves discredited by the illegal actions in the field. While I cannot predict the outcome of the judicial process and don't wish to do so, it is nonetheless our hope that justice will prevail, and if found guilty, the punishment will act as a deterrent to others, both within LEC and outside of LEC. LEC promises to continue to vigorously pursue all power theft culprits, and I urge the public to continue reporting all suspected incidents of power theft to our whistleblowing hotline 4600, using both MTN Lone Star and others. And now on to the main business of the day, which I wish to introduce my LEC management team, and we will try to answer any questions that you may have at the end of our meeting. First of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Adam Sheriff. Please stand, Adam. Senior Manager in LEC Finance. Mr. George Tuala. George, please. Senior Manager in LEC Commercial Directorate. And finally, Mr. Sam Zimbe, the Executive Director of LEC Commercial. Thanks, Sam. LEC is pleased to take this opportunity to announce the following two new Government of Liberia funded initiatives which are being implemented through LEC. Firstly, the Government of Liberia funded Electricity Tokens Project, and secondly, His Excellency President WAEC's Transformer Replacement Project. Both of these initiatives are driven by His Excellency President George WAEC and are particularly designed to bring assistance to Liberia's poor as part of His Excellency's continuing commitment to the pro-poor agenda. To this end, we also want to thank the honourable members of the House Committee on Public Utilities for their valuable input and continued support. If I begin with the Government of Liberia funded Tokens Project. First of all, let me say, this is not a free electricity project, and power theft continues to be a crime and will be prosecuted accordingly. However, this is a Government of Liberia funded project, funded by the Government of Liberia, thanks to His Excellency, President George WAEC, through the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, for which we thank the Government. Government of Liberia tokens are available to eligible electricity customers only, that is, legally connected domestic customers, including those paying customers who don't currently have a meter but are paying LEC, but excludes commercial businesses and industrial customers. Each eligible customer may claim one only $20 US dollar token. Each token is available at LEC vendors and is to be claimed in a normal purchase. Government of Liberia tokens will be available from 12 noon on Monday the 16th of November, that's next Monday, 12 noon on Wednesday the 16th of December, 2020. Government of Liberia tokens will be allocated to a single meter. So when you claim your token, it will be allocated to the meter with which you claim it and cannot be used on another meter. Now on to the second matter, I suppose. His Excellency President WAEC's Transformer Replacement Program. His Excellency President WAEC has long recognised the financial difficulties facing LEC and our ability to fund essential maintenance and repair materials. His Excellency is also aware that despite replacing over 150 blown transformers since June 2019, LEC continues to struggle with a legacy of poor design, illegal connections, and transformer overhauling, resulting in over 160 transformers, that's 160 transformers, still needing to be replaced. Against this backdrop, His Excellency has launched a $1.9 million transformer replacement project to be implemented by LEC. This project aims to procure over 130 transformers and associated equipment necessary to do transformer replacement. The Government of Liberia and LEC have already signed a memorandum of understanding to implement this project. The Government of Liberia has already made an advance payment to LEC, and orders have been placed for transformers and all materials necessary to make these transformer replacements. And the delivery of these materials are scheduled to begin arriving at the end of November and will continue to the end of January. So we'll see the materials arriving incrementally from the end of November through to the end of January. LEC has already begun surveying the over 160 transformer locations in preparation for installation of transformers. And we are establishing a dedicated project team to ensure that maximum focus is placed on delivering this project as expeditiously as possible. LEC expects to complete installation of 140 transformers by the end of March 2021, returning LEC electricity to over 40,000 on-road. As these transformers are installed, the responsibility to ensure the safety and security of each and every transformer falls to the people of each and every community which those transformers are. After all, these transformers are serving your community, and you know the pain and discomfort of living without LEC electricity for many months, or in fact, in some cases, for many years. That means, or what does it mean for everyone? It effectively means that if you are already legally connected to LEC, you stay legally connected to LEC. You pay for your electricity, which in itself pays for the fuel, equipment, and people necessary to operate, maintain, and improve the electricity service in your area. If you are illegally connected to LEC, you can expect to be disconnected and should seek a legal connection. If LEC tells you that you cannot get a legal connection because the transformer could be overloaded, or you are too far away from the transformer, please be understanding and patient. Protect the transformer that is there already. One day, you will get a transformer in your area, and you will want others to be patient and protect the transformer in your area as well. If you have an unmetered supply, expect to be metered. So register for a meter and get on the LEC list as quickly as possible. And remember, the success of this project supports LEC plans to electrify your area under the various donor projects, so be patient, your time will come. In closing, I will go back to the beginning and remind you of the following. Do not pay LEC staff to the fees. LEC field staff are not authorized to take payment. If LEC requires payment for a service, you will receive a formal invoice from LEC. Only pay where you have received a formal invoice. Make your payments at a bank or other approved LEC outlet. Always keep copies of the receipts and report all suspect incidents of power theft or extortion to our whistleblowing hotline 4600 using both NTN Lone Star and Orange. Finally, I will close by once again thanking His Excellency President George Manawiya, the Government of Liberia, and the Board for their ongoing support of LEC, but particularly for these projects which will have such an immense impact on the people of Liberia in the immediate months ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can give me the platform. Member of the press, If you have questions for the LDC CEO, please come forward, introduce yourself and ask a question.
Make sure they're wearing the mask.
You have to be social distance, compliance, and wearing your mask.
Thank you, CEO. My name is Corey Scania, and I work for Chief FM. My question is, you talk about advanced payment made to LDC by the company. What is that actually?
Talked by colleague Mr. Santini will give you the more, or actually, I'm sure if I imagine there was more details on that scale.
So did that take note? We get 2 questions?
One at a time.
Yeah, thank you. The government has made about 50% of the payment. The entire budget runs around 1.9 to $2 million, and they have made about $1 million advance payment, which we have already signed contract for, and also made advance payments to the vendors.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Johnson, and I report for OAFM. My question has to do with the issue of meters. Most times people relate the power bill issue to people not getting meter on time. Sometimes people put in for their meters, and then it takes 9, 10 months, 1 year, 2 years, and they don't have the meter on time. What has been the problem at LEC?
I think the problem at LEC has been relatively simple and easily understood. A lack of financial liquidity in the company to be able to procure meters. This project that's currently going on is only possible through the good offices of the government of Liberia and His Excellency President Weir, who have provided the advance funding to allow us to undertake this project. In relation to meters overall, LEC is pleased to announce the fact that we have actually 15,000 meters which are coming to LEC in the coming months. And these are being funded by KFW as a donor. In addition to which, we are also getting some special high security meters for our large customers, and they are being funded by MCC, MCAL, and also by KFW. So we are heavily reliant on donor funding to fund all of the materials that LEC uses. So this is one of the difficulties in the company. But we're slowly coming to terms with it and expect to be able to address that.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
My name is James Gbotoe. I report for School FM and School TV. Sir, I'm concerned about what you spoke of regarding the government's LEC project or whatever. This was approved 7 months ago, and you are talking about the 16th becoming the 1st. That is the beginning of it. We want to know why it took so long. And again, the way you explain the government listening may let it be in a state of dilemma. Can you better explain and break it down how you're going to get? Is it that you have to pay for $20 and then you get $40 in return? Next has to do with the part you said, LEC workers are not to be paid. You go to Matani where I live, we practically pay LEC workers before they do any connection for us. They will come like pretending to be doing free service, but they will tell you the office said we should not take money. Then go to the office and tell them, let them come and do the work. We are the few guys who do the work. Why is it that you just saying it, you are not really monitoring them to see how they're doing their jobs? Those are my 2 concerns.
Okay. If I can talk a little bit about the tokens. The tokens are being funded by the government of Liberia and are free of charge to any eligible customer. So completely free of charge. So if an individual wishes to go to a vending outlet and look for their $20 token, as long as they go through the normal mechanisms that they would normally go through when they are buying a token for LEC, where they provide their meter number and their other details, including the phone number and so on, the token will be processed in the normal way, and a token will be issued, but no charge will be made to the individual customer. That charge will be borne by the government of Liberia. This is for one only customer, one transaction, once up. In relation to the date of launching of the project, yes, I agree that it's taken some time to come to fruition. The government of Liberia, much in the same as NEC, has the same financial constraints that NEC has, and has to deal with those realities in the fiscal space which it finds itself in. Nonetheless, the government has made a commitment and is delivering on that commitment at this particular point in time. Separately, you've raised the issue of payment to NEC workers. I'm not telling you that some NEC workers do not look for payment for work in the field. What I'm telling you is that this shouldn't happen. And when we find out about it, we deal with it. Much of it is done on a one-to-one basis, personally on the ground. And as long as members of the public and members of the community will continue to pay NEC staff for doing what they should be doing without any payment, this practice will continue. So this has to be stamped out by people on the ground, take a strong position, much as the people in Lagos Island have taken last Wednesday, and coming forward saying, we're not willing to do this anymore. This is a service that we should have been able to get without having to pay the staff themselves for doing this service. There are undoubtedly services that have to be paid for. Whatever they are, but they do have to be paid for. Then NEC will issue an invoice, and we'll expect payment against that invoice, and you will get a formal receipt for NEC for that service. Much of what members of the public are asked to pay for, they should not be paying for. But this has to be stamped out by the members of the public themselves. You as NEC customers and the members living in the communities must stamp this out. We can't be everywhere.
Yeah, again, good evening. Just a follow-up to the processes leading to having your government token, that is the NEC. What are the processes leading to it? And about 2-3 months now, I have now gone to NLEC to buy my LEC. I use my mobile phone through my mobile money to purchase my LEC token. I am also allowed, or those who have mobile money accounts, are they allowed? And how can they do it if they are allowed?
I just called my colleagues. Maybe the podium here, Sam, perhaps you can deal with this.
Yes, thank you for that question. We have different channels. We have vending outlets, so you can get your tokens through the normal vending channels. If you are using mobile money, yes, you can get your token through mobile money. We shall be advertising numbers direct to Mobile Bango company, where you can call. Yeah, because you have to have your meter when they are available, and then we will check your meter in the system. The answer is yes, you'll be able to use your mobile money, both MTN, Lone Star, and Orange, to claim your tokens. Now, for those who are not metered, and we have a number of customers who are not metered, we shall be handling those from our main office. And we will urge all those customers who are not metered, who are currently on our books, to come and claim their tokens through our office. We have a dedicated team. In the event that there are issues, what we are putting in place is a dedicated team in our call center. So you should be able to call 4500 to inquire about the token, and our dedicated team will be able to address your issues. And all this will be done within 1 month. As the CEO has said, the $20 token is only for 1 month and for 1 meter. Yeah. So in terms of systems, we have actually put in place our systems that will be able to distribute these tokens seamlessly. And we assure you that every legal customer will get their $20 token without any problem.
My name is Andrew.
Just one clarification on every leading customer. This does apply to domestic customers only and not industrial and commercial customers, obviously, who are outside of this. This is part of his expertise for initiative to address issues for domestic customers. Sorry, my apologies for interrupting.
My name is Andrew Delaware, and I report for TV. My concern have to do with customers are complaining of the vendors' sales of token, but which have to do with the distance in getting their token. And I visited several vendors who said the fees for the vendors or one or team of vendors is very much expensive, which is $5,000 to become a vendors. So this is why you don't have too many vendors selling the token. So what are you people doing about that to reduce that fee of $5,000?
Yes, the fees for vendors about
Right.
5,000. That's why they're not too many.
Okay. We have a contract with a third party called Libango, and that third party deals with the vendors. Now, yes, if we have issues like the one you have highlighted, we want to know about it because our supervisor tells us that this process of getting many vendors is similar. There's no problem. Now, I would urge the public, if they have issues with the vending outlets, to let us know through our call center number 4500. And we try to deal with them. There are new areas like Papacha where we have connected customers. This year we have connected almost 15,000 customers since January. By December, we should have reached about 24,000 residential customers. Those are new. And each one of them will be entitled to a token. So we are looking at those new areas where we didn't have vendors before to ensure that customers in those areas are able to not only vend, but also be able to create their own tokens. But it's a point you have raised. We'll take it up with the vendors. If they have issues, definitely LEC, we are the principal. We should be able to understand their issues and be able to deal with it.
Good afternoon, I'm Chairman. We are the one report for Crown FM. You talk about Mr. Walkley, you talk about impatience. There's a community in Ghana called the New Gbotoe. The community is called Gbotoe community. The community behind Gbotoe is there's this community that have been in darkness for almost 30 years. No electricity. So what are you doing to address this concern?
Yes, thank you, sir. And it is one of the areas of great concern to LEC. In fact, when I came to Liberia first, a little bit over 2 years ago, and compiled the list of all the transformers that were blown across Monrovia as a whole, I have to say that I was shocked to discover that there was over 300 transformers actually blown off the system at that particular point in time. In the intervening period, LEC has replaced almost 160 transformers across Monrovia as a whole. But that still has left about 160 transformers that need to be replaced still. We are slowly working our way through it. And lack of funding has been very slow to date. However, the initiative sponsored by His Excellency President George Manavita to procure 140 transformers is going to have a direct impact on those areas. So we are buying 140 transformers, courtesy of the government of Liberia, and that is going to have a direct impact on all of those areas. I said in my presentation that we expected to have all areas which have load transformers back on the system by end of March 2021. That is our intention. So I apologize for the fact that you have been without electricity for 3 years. And in fact, I have met some of the communities from Georgia and from all locations, and I have asked them for their forbearance and their patience. And I must say I'm very thankful to the people of Monrovia in particular who have shown great forbearance and great patience up to now. And we really do look forward as NEC to making electricity available to all of those communities, in many cases for the first time in over 3 years. That will help to increase NEC's customer base, it helps to increase NEC's revenue base, and improve the performance of NEC overall. So for us, for NEC, this is a win-win situation. Adding more customers who are good customers and who are paying for their electricity to the system is only good for NEC, and it is exactly what NEC wants. So as long as we can afford to have transformers, and we can now, thanks to the government of Liberia and His Excellency, we are now in a position to procure those transformers, and that will address that problem for us going forward. However, for all of the communities where new transformers are going to be installed, it is important, it is absolutely critical, in fact, that they look after those transformers, make sure that they are not overloaded going forward, and make sure that only legally connected customers are connected to those transformers. Because invariably, as we install transformers in these locations, people will try to connect illegally and may in fact overload those transformers. If we lose one of those transformers due to overload, we will not be able to replace it. This is a once-off intervention by the government of Liberia, not to be repeated. It should not be squandered or wasted. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Vivian Na, and to report for the Heritage newspaper. Actually, my question is in connection to my previous question, or just to add up to that. Are you aware about the criminal activities in the surrounding of Monrovia? Is it like due to the darkness of areas? And now you are saying that the installation of the new transformer going to be at the end of March. Looking at the tested season and it's about to come at December. We are in November, the end of December. Children at home because of coronavirus, they are not back yet in school. Why did you get all the extend all the way to March instead of December or the end of November? Why? Thank you.
Well, very simply because first of all, the first deliveries of transformers will not arrive in Liberia until the end of November. And out of the 130 odd transformers that NEC is procuring, they will not come all together. So we will get them in many stages of delivery. So the first stage is we are getting 56 transformers at the end of November. We will get a further 40 transformers during December, and towards the end of this in early January, and all 50 transformers. So the total delivery of transformers is spread throughout the period from the end of November to the end of January 2021. From the time we receive a transformer to the time we actually physically can install a transformer, there's a requirement that we have. We have to have contractors, people on the ground who are physically capable of doing this work. There are a certain amount of limited resources that are available to do this. It's a specialist area. And we're actually enhancing the number of contractors available to NEC to be able to do this work. That said, there's a maximum number of transformers that we can replace in any individual week, no matter how many contractors we have on the ground, because every time we replace a transformer, we have to switch out some part of the network for safety reasons. So this will be immensely disruptive, but on top of that, the resources aren't there. So all in all, from the time we get the last transformer to the time we have the last transformer installed is about 8 weeks. I don't think that anybody can be expected to do better than that. And in fact, we've already started the process, the planning process, the design process, the survey process, visiting each of the communities to make sure that we know exactly what size transformer we want in every community, how much cleaning of the communities there is to disconnect those that are illegally connected, and if there's any maintenance work that needs to be done in all of this the installation of work done in advance as is possible, short of the actual installation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name is Lincoln G. Peter, and I report for the Independent Empire newspaper. My question has to do with people who are on flat rates. We have other people in the country that are on flat rate without on the major issue or other issue. My concern here is this. Some of them, because they charge very a price happening. Other people were paying their amount of $30 US. Other people were paying their more. The people who are paying the amount of $30 US, the fare had increased to the amount of $40 US. So I want to know if you are aware of the increasement and why such increasement come about. And two, you talk about power theft, people who will be involved into power theft. It is a crime and they will be dealt with according to the law. I also want to know about LEC employees who are in the future demanding money from citizens or customers to carry out a particular tax for its people. So I want to know, will there be punishment for them too? And if yes, which punishment are we talking about?
Maybe I should start with the back to the last question and talk about the LEC staff who were involved in looking for money in the field or looking for money before they will take any test. In fact, looking for money in relation to electricity is in essence more than, but it's also functional within LEC in terms of our own, in terms of corporate practice. But it's important for members of the public where such an event is taking place that you must come forward and you must tell the management of LEC of this event. And you must be willing to provide evidence by way of statement or other evidence to the effect that this is taking place. Unfortunately, we have many incidents over the last year and a half of people coming forward, making allegations, but with no substance or with no evidence behind those allegations. LEC is bound by the law of Liberia as everybody else who lives and works in Liberia. Liberia is a country that is governed by law. That law demands that we have evidence before we take action. So we are more than willing to take action where there is evidence provided to us. But in the case of people searching or looking for money from members of the public, that evidence can only come from those people who have been asked for that money. And it must be by way of a formal statement or affidavit that we can take to court. There's been a great reluctance in that space. One would hope that that reluctance will fade and that we will be in a better position to address that. In relation to the so-called flat rate, flat rate is an unfortunate misnomer, really. It's really a rate associated with people who have an unmetered supply at this moment in time. A number of people are on unmetered supplies, and a number of those persons are diligently paying their bills on a regular basis and only using the amount of electricity that they're paying. However, we've also discovered that there are many people who are on this unmetered electricity supply that are recklessly using electricity and using vast amounts of electricity more than they're actually paying. This is the reason that we need to make sure that unmetered supplies get meters and that they're actually being paid for the amount of electricity they use. So we are actually following up with that. You want to add anything to that, Sam?
Just to add, it is our priority now to take away all consumers from a flat rate because it's not good for the children. It can be abused, and you have actually highlighted the big discrepancy there. Because there shouldn't be different figures for different consumers. So our priority is to ensure that every person who is unmetered is metered when we get the new meters end of November this month. Then first priority. For now, with respect to the tokens, because they are now books, we shall allow them to benefit from the tokens as long as there is a history on paying as far as our records are concerned. But I think you all agree, many of those who are on that rate definitely have been abusing the process and will take it out. Just one point from the gentleman who asked about vendors, just to clarify. Why are vendors asked to make a payment? You know, if you set up a business, sell tokens, you must have a system which interfaces with our system. But in the first instance, without third party bank. And from what you are saying, you're telling us that the bank is charging $5,000 for anyone who wants to go into business. That is not right because you pay them a commission and you're going to investigate it because it is the responsibility of the store vendor to provide adequate systems to the vendor down the line. So it's not what we're going to take up.
In relation to the metering as well, just to add something to the debate on the metering. I think one also has to commit or comment on the government's commitment to metering overall. Insofar as that many of you will be aware of the government's His Excellency President Neil's street lighting project, which is also ongoing under the Minister of Public Works, which NEC is providing assistance on. The government has insisted that those street lights are metered, so to ensure that they are moving forward, setting a strong example that of their commitment to having all entities metered going forward. And indeed, as part of the 140 transformers and other equipment that's been funded by the government under this transformer replacement project, there's also the 2,500. Yes, 2,500 meters are also being funded by the government of Nigeria in this project also. There's a very strong commitment from the government to metering and the metering of customers.
Good afternoon, there is a report for PLBC. So last year, the LEC reported this very high amount that the entity has been using to power theft. Since the passage of the new law on power theft, has there been any change in the number, or still reporting high numbers due to power theft?
Yeah, I suppose there's some good news and bad news on that one. The good news part, I suppose, which maybe I'll cover first of all, is that, or maybe I won't, I'll start with the bad news. The bad news when it comes to power theft is that challenging power theft in all countries around the world is an immensely difficult process. My colleague here, Sanzimbe, has many years of experience in utilities, including in Uganda, UNEME, which, if you speak to the donor community, they will tell you that UNEME is one of the shining lights as a company who has tackled commercial losses over the years. UNEME's history will show that, on average, over the 15 or 20 years that they've been working on addressing commercial losses, they have successfully delivered a 1.5% per annum reduction in commercial losses. So, if you look at the fact that LEC's commercial losses at the beginning of this year were running at about 60%, which is completely unacceptable. Don't get me wrong, it's completely unacceptable. But nonetheless, in the intervening period, we have managed, despite COVID, despite all the challenges of COVID, despite the challenges of not being able to get meters because of the factories being shut down in China and so on, we have still managed to deliver a 4.5% reduction in commercial losses this year alone. We had set ourselves a challenging target in January of delivering a 10% reduction in commercial losses. COVID interrupted that program. But we have, at this moment in time, achieved 4.5% reduction in commercial losses. So, it's not an acceptable situation to have the level of commercial losses that we currently have. It's something that we need to continue working very hard to address. But it's something that can only be addressed by installation of meters, by working closely with the communities, and in no small way by the communities themselves working to ensure that there are no illegal connections on the networks in their communities. Over the coming months, we have deliveries of high security meters, which are being brought in to assist us in providing high security meters for our larger customer base, commercial and industrial customers. This will improve the accuracy of those installations, and will ensure that it will eliminate as much as is technically possible commercial losses in those areas. So there's a long road ahead, but we have made a good start this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Sekou Kone, and I report for Scrum FM. There's a community in Ghana's called Yorville Community, Basotlan, opposite Stephen A. Tower Estate. Since last year, November, this community has been in total darkness, only because their transformer got damaged. We wrote LEC at the time and they said that no transformer was in the country. And the residents of this community ordered in their own transformer and wrote LEC to install this transformer. Almost 3 months now, LEC have refused to install this transformer. They told us to sign an MOU where we will provide security that will safeguard this transformer, and we signed, and up to now, LEC have refused to install our transformer. Why have LEC continuously to refuse the community that purchased their own transformer only to purchase government effort? Why have LEC refused to install our transformer? Thank you.
I'm not aware of that particular situation. My colleagues have taken the details and we'll follow up. And if at the end of our press conference, you will share your cell phone number and details, we will look into it and we will get back to you. There's no, I can't think of a particular reason at this moment, and there may be a technical reason why it's not possible. I do not know. But we will definitely look into it and we will get back to you. I'll take it up.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Cherif. I write for the Kaduna News Agency. I have with me there 3 concerns. The first one has to do with the ability of the LEC to open private partnership. Is the LEC contemplating on opening private partnership with other vendors in order to bring in transformers? The second concern here has to do with the cost of those transformers that you are talking about. Are those transformers durable? Because we have noticed that transformers come and you see in the scope of time they blow up. So what's the durability of those transformers that you are trying to bring into the country? And another thing here has to do with the issue about flat rate. There have been so many exercises and we have found out that if LEC introduce the issue about flat rate, it will help them to generate both revenue and also boost to fight against power theft. Are you contemplating on bringing flat rate to the public?
Okay, in terms of the importation of transformers, the complex area, and there are already a number of vendors who import transformers to Liberia. Fundamentally, it's a matter of LEC having the funding available to itself to be able to afford those transformers. And again, I'll go back to my initial point, which is that His Excellency President Weah and the government of Liberia, it is only through their good offices and the funding made available by the Ministry of Finance that LEC is able to embark upon this transformer replacement program. Transformers are a hugely expensive component. Typically, transformers that we use here in Liberia run somewhere between $8,000 and $11,000 US just for the transformer. And there are additional costs associated with the ancillaries that go with it. In terms of the durability of the transformers, we have a very high standard that we look for in terms of the transformers, and the transformers are durable. typically a transformer where it is not overloaded or not used will last for over 40 years. 40 years is a long lifetime for a transformer. Yet that's not the case here in Liberia, and largely it's not the case because of the continuing level of illegal connections and overloading of the transformers. In fact, the circuit breakers that we put on the transformers are designed to protect those transformers, and yet we find that those circuit breakers have been bypassed, or in some cases that they've been jammed in the closed position so that they can't do what they're supposed to do. They cannot trip to be able to protect the transformer, unfortunately. Again, I come back to the community involvement in this. It is important that the community takes a lead in this, and that where the transformer is tripping, that gets reported to LEC. And that we find out where the illegal connections are going on, because it is these illegal connections that are causing the transformers to be overloaded and damage those transformers. Every electricity company in the world has some small, low-level failure rate of transformers. Usually this is associated with lightning strikes or some other damage caused by third-party interference or whatever. Transformers of their nature are incredibly robust, but they are prone to overload. And in the case of overload, they will fail spectacularly, as many of you have seen in the past. So it's important that we do not overload those transformers. In relation to flat rates, I'm not sure about the point that was trying to be made. From an LEC perspective, we want to eliminate flat rates or unmetered supply. We want people to be on a metered supply and to only pay for the electricity that they're using. If you look at flat rates as it's being implemented in many places, there are those customers who are absolutely honourable and above board and are paying for the exact amount of electricity that they use. However, there are situations that we know of where that's not the case, and where a flat rate is being paid with significantly more electricity than is being paid for is actually being used. And that's effectively taking money from the other people in the community. It's most understand it in this way. People who are using more electricity than they're paying for, than they're actually paying for, they're stealing money from their neighbors. And stealing money from LEC as well. Fundamentally, they're stealing the money from their neighbors, possibly overloading the transformer. If there's enough of them, definitely overloading the transformer, and ultimately causing a transformer failure. And many of you live in communities where you have no transformer because you know the transformer has been overloaded. This is difficult for LEC to address this. This has to be worked closely with the communities. And today, I'm happy to say that our community outreach program has led us to excellent results in many communities. And I can also tell you that the Wednesday's situation that we had, that was in no small way down to the local community. So it's a testament to the power of action in the local community. And we want to tap into that to protect the assets of LEC, which are making electricity available to the people around the world. Thank you very much.
Well, let me say thank you to the LEC family. I will make a follow-up with Pascal and his group, because as Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, you've opened up something that we need to follow up and address with you. And that happens to be the question from the gentleman who said they brought in their own transformer. So right now I'm getting the hit from our phone, so we can order our own transformers and LEC will install them. See, so I will make a follow-up with them. There are people asking about the meters also, whether, look, see, that's the follow-up question.
Okay, in relation to communities buying their own transformers, there is an amount going on at this moment in time, and LEC, as long as the transformer meets the standards, the high standards that LEC sets for itself, Then we will work with the community in relation to the installation of those transformers. It needs to be understood that once the transformer is installed, it has to become the property of NEC at that stage, because we have to take responsibility with going forward in terms of painting and maintenance and normal servicing. Other than that, if the community wishes to retain ownership, then they have to retain all the responsibility for it, which is obviously not something they want to do. Similarly with meters. Meters are a very, very, very complex area in your business to any third party. So no utility in the world hands over responsibility for metering to third parties. That's not to say that we are not open to offers of procurement of meters to a high standard where the cost is at an appropriate level. In terms of the procurement of materials overall for NEC, one of the difficulties that NEC has is when you're procuring relatively small amounts of material in country, the price tends to be escalated. Most utilities procure directly from the manufacturer. By procuring directly from the manufacturer, you eliminate the middleman and you get a significant reduction in cost. And that's ultimately where NEC wants to go. We want to go to the situation where we're financially robust enough to go to the international markets, buy high volumes of meters, poles, transformers, and put ourselves in good state in terms of providing transformers, meters, poles, conductors, and other essentials to the people of Liberia at the lowest possible cost. We are some ways away from that at this moment in time, but that's ultimately where we want to go to. But if the community has a transformer at this moment in time that they wish to install, please come to us. We'll happily engage with you and we'll have a conversation with you. I would, however, remind you, the government of Liberia is funding a project to install 130 transformers across Monrovia as a whole. You may very well find yourself going to procure a transformer that would otherwise have been procured by the government, so you may be needlessly incurring a cost. On top of the 130 transformers that are being procured by the government, LEC is also procuring another 100 transformers from our own funding. So all in all, there will be more than enough transformers available in Liberia that are not going to warrant individual communities or individual persons procuring their own transformers. And it is a matter of being somewhat patient and waiting for those transformers to come. On top of that, there are donor projects which are going on in the Bomi corridor, Kakata corridor, the RIA corridor, and also the Monrovia Consolidated, which is effectively Central Monrovia and Dublin Boulevard, and also infill projects that are being funded by the various donor organizations, the World Bank, KfW, AFDB, the EU. They are bringing in thousands of transformers to reinforce the networks in the area. Again, I would say most of these projects will see themselves being closed out in the next year and a half. So a small amount of patience will see most areas in the Greater Monrovia area with electricity funded by the donor projects or funded through the government of Liberia and LEC itself. So with that, I think that adequately covers the question.
Of course, and we'll follow up with you.
Maybe thank you. Excuse us, we have another meeting. Thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the price, like I said, I will follow up with the LEC family on any other concerns you have. We would like to invite to the podium Anthony Darrow Ambrose Ma, Senior Director of Communications at the Judiciary Branch of Government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fagon. I hope you can see me because some of us are very short. So, Mr. Minister and your deputies and members of the MICA family, members of the Fourth Estate, good afternoon to all of you. I know that it is already way past 4 o'clock, so I'll just try to make this update as brief as possible. I bring you greetings from the judiciary branch of government. First, the Honorable Supreme Court has resumed sitting for the October term 2020. We started on the second Monday of October, and the court went straight into hearing cases on its docket, and however have given priority to election cases. As you know, we have the special 2020 senatorial elections pending, and so far the court has listened to and decided 2 electoral matters. One was decided in the chamber justice's chamber that had to do with a candidate from Grand Cape County against the NEC, and that was sent back to NEC for due process to be accorded to that candidate. The court heard and decided a writ of mandamus filed by the collaborating political parties, the CPP, that basically wanted the court to mandate the NEC to hold the by-elections for the representative seats for both District 2, Sino County, and District 9, Montserrat County, at a specific date. The court heard and denied the writ for legal reasons. Last week, the court heard an appeal from NEC on a petition that was filed before NEC to deny a candidate of the collaborating political parties in Lofa County, Mr. Brownlee Samokai. The court heard that argument on last week and will shortly, within this week, deliver an opinion on that. And then on tomorrow, the court at 10 o'clock will hear another petition writ before the court, a prohibition filed by the collaborating political parties in asking the court to put a stay and a prohibition on the referendum. And that argument will be heard on tomorrow. Also, what is concerning and that we want to make very brief was the incident that happened exactly a month ago on the grounds of the Temple of Justice. It is a very concerning situation, a regrettable situation, and the court is particularly concerned and regrets the action because not only that he was an employee of the court, but that he was a human being. And for someone to self-immolate, we believe that, it is something, no matter the justification of the reason, but it's something that our hearts will go out to. We know that after the incident, and even before the incident, there have been many, many, many stories carried out there. As a matter of fact, on Monday, right after that incident, because the Chief Justice was sitting a new judge that was appointed for the juvenile court when that incident occurred. And after that incident, we inquire and send the Deputy Director for Personnel to find out where they had taken Mr. Pompo so that the Chief Justice pays a visit. Unfortunately, because of the sentiments, the director was chased away on the grounds that the judiciary was trying to find information on Mr. Pompo and to have him killed. When these things happen, it is the kind of sentiments and the misinformation that we carry that inflames the situation. It is a grave situation, and as we all know, in our country, when we spread the misinformation and people take positions, in the end, it is only one person who's left to suffer. And right now, it is Mr. Pompo who is bearing the brunt. Today, just before I got here, I was running a little bit late. Fortunately, his father reached out to us, and there was a meeting held this afternoon. We advised that the outcome of the meeting will be disclosed by the father himself as to why he came to see the Chief Justice and the justices of the Supreme Court. But our hearts go out with Mr. Pompon because he's our employee. What I want to say, basically, so that we don't make this a long process, is that first, we need to set the facts right. First, there is the impression and the perception given to the public that the judiciary branch of government owes employees for over 11 months. And that impression is that people have come to work and they have not been paid their salaries for over 11 months. That is not true. That is not true. As I speak to you, I know that, I can say for the entire government, but for the judiciary branch of government, as at yet, October, this month, October, last month, October, yeah, we didn't get paid. But the judiciary does not owe any employee for over 11 months. Every month, every employee is paid their salaries. What the issue that was raised by Mr. Pompon and some of the workers at the judiciary is about the new government salary structure that was put in place due to the passage of the harmonization and standardization law. That affected the judiciary in 3 ways. First is that when the government, with its partners in preparing the 2019-2020 budget, realized that the wage bill of government had risen from 290 million to over 320 million. And then the IMF told the government they have to bring the bill back to 290 million. The government instigated cuts to bring it down within the executive branch first, I think as early as February of 2019. Civil service within the executive branch of government started experiencing cuts. Then it went to the legislature. After July of 2019, when the government still could not meet the benchmark that the IMF has set, they wanted to approach the judiciary. The judiciary resisted because the salaries and benefits of the judiciary are protected by law under the Constitution. And so the Chief Justice, in a meeting with the Minister of Finance and the legislature, made it clear that the Constitution says you cannot reduce the salaries and benefits of those in the judiciary only under one condition. And that condition is that the legislature must develop a national program and must pass a special law to do that. So in October of 2019, the legislature passed that special law, which is the harmonization and standardization law, and the president signed it. And so from October of 2019, the judiciary became affected now in this whole process. And how did it affect the judiciary? In 3 ways. The first way was that the government of Liberia were paying 2 pays. I mean, most of us are civil servants, we know what I'm talking about. Our basic salary was Liberian dollars. That was your salary. Then the allowance was US dollars. So first, the government decided to put all 2 together and say we are no longer paying 2 pay, you got 1 pay now, and it's in US dollars. And that US dollars will give you 20% in Liberian dollars and 80% in US dollars. So they collapse it to one pay. So in the judiciary, if you're making, say, $20,000 Liberian dollars as your salary, let's take it at $100, maybe 200 is the rate, and you are making 200 as allowance, they put all together, now your new salary will be $300 US. That's the first way, so they combine it. The second thing that happened is that the government deducted 16% across the board. So if you had $300 now as a one pay, that deduction now to meet the IMF standard, they deducted from the wage bill of the judiciary 16%. If you calculate 16%, it may be over 40-something dollars. So which means now your $300 will drop to about 200, maybe 260 something. The third thing that affected the salary is that in the judiciary, the allowances are not taxed because the Constitution says you cannot tax allowances. So the government said, but this is no longer allowance now, it is salary. So you have to pay income tax and you have to pay Social Security on it. So if you're making $300, the 16% brought it maybe to $260. I'm just giving you a rough estimate. Then you pay income tax and Social Security tax on it, contribution on it. So it may bring it to maybe $210. So since October of last year, people now are expecting $300 because the Liberian dollars are coming. But now you are getting maybe $210. And that ran up to October this year. It is that Liberian dollar component and the hit and the drop in the salaries, and that affected from the Chief Justice straight down to everybody in the judiciary. So it was that some of the workers felt that, no, but then that Liberian dollar salary that the government took away, you should put it back. So they brought the issue to the Chief Justice, and we had a meeting with the workers and explained that, number one, the judiciary doesn't pay its own payroll, we are all civil servants. And this was done from the government new pay structure. So there is no longer that Liberian dollar salary that will come back. There was that Liberian dollar salary that stopped coming since October last year, that almost came to 1 year. That is why people say they were not paid for over 1 year. But it was a new salary structure. So what happened was, the Chief Justice then called the Minister of Finance. And in his wisdom, the Minister of Finance, having discussed and looking at the table, he felt that the judiciary had been affected hard. Because to get a 16% cut and then you start to put taxes, there will be a big impact on them. He made some commitments to the workers, especially starting with the lower level workers, that the government was going to see how they can recalibrate. But first, they're going to look for 3 months of what was taken away and add it to this October pay. And then subsequently, they will see how they can balance those who are on the lower ladder. And then when the government budget improves, they will look at the judges and other people. We haven't gotten the October pay yet, but want to believe that the minister is full with his commitment. As a matter of fact, I believe I was told that it was that adjustment that is being made. That is what is delaying the judiciary pay for this time. Because you try to find money from somewhere, cushion them for about 3 months, and then from October going, try to set the lower workers' pay because they were the hardest hit. So, my dear people, the judiciary did not owe anybody. The Chief Justice did not cut anybody's money. As a matter of fact, the same way every ministry and agency is paid. I believe here at NICAT, the controller prepares the payroll, assistant minister will sign it, or the minister will sign the payroll, we send it to civil service verify the payroll and send it to the Ministry of Finance, and they pay the money in prior accounts. So the notion that many people were carrying out also inflamed the workers' passion. That the judiciary got the money, the people worked, and you didn't pay them. But be that as it may, we just want to close on this note that the condition of Mr. Popo is very serious, as we've got from his father today. It is quite serious, and the judiciary through the Chief Justice, has promised to consult with the President and the government. But it is not, and let me emphasize, it is not to say that you bore a guilt, but because it's a human being, he's a Liberian. And what drove him to do what he did, unfortunately, most of the people who pushed him forward have abandoned him. And right now, he is critical. And his parents, the family now is desperate. So I ask that we all pray for him. We all remember him. And whatever we all can do to make sure he recovers. But we have been told today by the father and one of his very good friends who've come. Why the father came, as I said, we advise that he speaks to the media. What actually feels, I understand he can't speak, but he writes. And what he wrote, and he gave me, I will not share it. I asked the father to share it. But we also need to pray for him. And I hope that he gets well. So at this time, I will pause right here so that if there is any question, anything you want us to speak to, so that we can speak to it. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Do you have a question for Ombudsman? Please.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, thank you. There is a main and profit by TV. We all I will consider this salary issue where the applicants of the days is a term, and then they tell families and then you make the clarity. They promise to give the 2 months of the salary. Now there's an allegation that what actually didn't achieve with what he did was just from the Chief Justice. That is, during the after death, it was alleged that he alleged only Chief Justice of Edo wanted to kill him. And with that, a rape arrest was issued. He was also suspended. And then his complaint was sent at the Ministry of Justice when that investigation is ongoing or being reported from now. So you as the spokesperson for the judiciary, now, how can you speak to that? How true is that the Chief Justice is requesting or that this issue, or it was because of the Chief Justice that
Okay, so let me answer it this way. During Mr. Pompom's protest actions, Mr. Pompom made an allegation that the Chief Justice, it was on a Friday, some of the media people were there, he staged a sit-in the yard alone. And then he said that he had to escape his home that night because the Chief Justice has sent armed men to kill him. And they are shot up in his house with shotguns and he had to escape. But you know, that Friday when we heard it, I told the Chief, don't mind, this needs to just say it. But then the next week, there was a staff meeting. That was when the Minister of Finance was called. And you know, the Chief Justice was trying to say that, look, what I heard that Mr. Pompom said that I sent people to kill him for what? What have I done to you? What have you done to me? Why? And then Mr. Pompom said, yeah, he raised his hand and said, yes, I have the proof. In fact, I have written to the police director that you had sent people to kill me. And so the Chief Justice took it very serious, that as the head of the judiciary, sending over cases, it was a great thing for a Liberian to accuse him of sending mercenaries to his house to kill him. And Mr. Pompom had indeed written to the director of police that the Chief Justice had tried to kill him. So the judiciary wrote to the Ministry of Justice to investigate the matter. And because the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary and as an employee of the judiciary, he was suspended to face an investigation. But there is the rate of arrest? When Mr. Popper and his colleagues were doing the peaceful protest, there was nothing, nobody bothered. I mean, many people followed the protest. And because it is your fundamental right, you say you can peaceably gather and assemble to express your grievance to your leaders. But when your right now infringes on the right of other persons, then that's a breach of the peace. So, when people didn't pick Mr. Popper up and lay him down, Mr. Popper moved the protest to another stage. First, he started to disrupt the proceedings in the state court. So the judge had to write. Like, we didn't have cases, because whenever the case started in the state court, you bring facts and bring start disrupting the court. That's a crime to disrupt the court proceedings. Secondly, whether we accept the person or not, the Chief Justice is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia. But by going and lying down under his car and he cannot move to go official today, that's obstruction of his function. He did it to the court administrator. She had to leave her car in the yard and take a transport car to go home because he was lying under the car and saying he wouldn't move. That's obstructing other people's function. So that was also reported to the police. And for the breach of peace, the police had to bring him under the jurisdiction of the court. And once there's an issue of breach of peace, the first thing the court will send will be a writ of arrest. All right? And that writ of arrest brings you under the jurisdiction of the court. And then you will come and you'll be billed out. And then the person who made the complaint will have to come and prove the complaint before the court. So that was why he issued the writ of arrest.
My name is Andrew Gbotoe, the report of the team. I want to know when the writ of arrest was given to achieve why the sheriff allowed him to be paraded within the compound of the judiciary. No comment on that.
Let me just say this. No, when the sheriff first attempted to serve the writ, there are people who are preventing the sheriff from serving the writ. There are people who are preventing the sheriff from serving the writ. When the writ was finally served, I think even before they talk about serving the writ, Mr. Pompon came already prepared to do what he wanted to do. Remember, long before he had written that he was going to do it 2 weeks ago, before. Mr. Pompon already had in his jacket a bottle, mineral water bottle, that had the inflammable fluid. You know, I don't know whether that's gas or whatever, but some people say that's gas in it. But the fluid was in the bottle. So when he was served the writ, that was what happened, and then he put his hand in there, took it up, and gassed himself. So I don't think we can fault the sheriffs.
Thank you very much. My name is Sekou Kwana and I report for Strong FM. And during your deliberation, you said the judicial branch of government is not holding any of its staff. And you just admitted that over the period of time, you saw judicial staff were protesting at the judicial branch of government. How do you reconcile these two statements? We are not holding them, we have been seeing them protesting for their salary.
Well, I don't know how you want to recognize it. I will reconcile them.
He's not holding them, but that was their right to.
That's the right to protest.
The fact that they were protesting doesn't
But
mean.
it doesn't mean that the way you're protesting for is true.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know how you want me to reconcile it, but.
Next question.
Go ahead, sir.
Also, let us take three.
Yes.
Four.
Yeah, my name is Renzi and still here. I work for the Labrador News Agency. Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for clarity on this one. But remember doing, I can say 3 more back, the issue of salary harmonization was one of the top issues people talk about in the country. And one measure of plan did for the road that can go through right now, there is they displayed to how the issue of salary harmonization will impact everything at the public, and it's the issue they need to address. Now, the issue of the judicial staff protest is started last small when the judicial, the president is upon the allow the chief justice come. Now, you get some, you did not make clarity of country, you need to make clarity. Now, we have reached this point. Now, one particularly for to come and make this clarity and the clarity I believe that your country help you in the public that yes, indeed, what is I think is no, this is not the right thing. Why this time you are coming after you country image have been damaged outside?
Thank you. Let me quickly respond to that. All right. No, that's not true. That's not true. It's just that, I think in this country we choose to pick the news that we think is newsy. Even before the salary affected the harmonization affected the judiciary, when the judiciary first resisted, on many radio stations, I even talked about the law that says the government should pay the judges adequately, the law that says you cannot cut the judiciary pay. I even said all that. October last year, when the Chief Justice opened the Supreme Court, the president was sitting there. He put it in his opening address. The media covered it. When the salary harmonization took effect, I was privileged to be in the meetings because the justices, the judges, everybody was rejecting. I was in the meeting with the Minister of Finance, the Director General of Civil Service Agency, then there was the lady, and the judiciary. All right? And when they explained it, I went on various radio stations and even issued a press release on that about the salary effect. If anybody remembers here, I talked about how much the Chief Justice was making, how much he cut it to. You were making $10,000, he cut it to $7,000. I went to Grand Coup and had a meeting with all the Southeastern workers of the court in January to explain the cut to them. I went to Nimba in February. I went to Cape Mount in March of this year, to explain to the workers how it was going to affect them. Even when Mr. Pompo and his people started the protest, again, we issued several releases. I was on a couple of radio stations explaining what the issue is. It's just that probably people didn't want to listen. So it is not only when it happened that we spoke of. No.
Well, my name is Andrew Johnson, and I report for OPFN. My question is, sir, according to your words, when you were explaining, you said the judiciary doesn't owe any of this law more than 11 months. And then the finance minister come up to say, we're going to pay you 3 months. Does that mean that the finance minister was not aware that he's not owing anybody at the judiciary, or if other staffs of other ministries and agencies come up to do the thing where the finance minister knows in his words from the papers that he's not owing any of those staffs? Should he come up to say that he's going to pay them extra 3 months or 4 months? Thank you.
Well, unfortunately, I can't speak for the Minister of Finance. But I just made it clear that the judiciary doesn't owe anybody apart from October this year. But I can't speak for the Minister of Finance. Maybe Mr. Fagon will speak, he's the executive branch of government.
Thank you very much. I'm from Plumber and I report to Fabric. Thank you for the clarity made so far about our chief and what happened at the judiciary. Now there's a growing concern about your boss, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Nigeria. And I have been doing some research. Article 72 of the 1986 Constitution says that the Chief Justice at age 70 he should resign. And also on the website of the judiciary, the Chief Justice, his profile is there where he was born and all of that, but his age is not mentioned, and people are skeptical about this. How old is the Chief Justice of the Republic?
Well, unfortunately, I can't say that right now. I don't know.
Okay, my name is James Gbotoe, and I think we should be fair to the public when it comes to public officials. The Chief Justice is not a private citizen of Nigeria. We should be in the know of his age. Just a follow-up to my first question. I think as a leader in relation to the judiciary, you should be able to let the public know the age of the Chief Justice. If it is not on the public website, it means there is an inner problem that the judicial system is not wanting to let the public know. My question is, why why the ministry, that is the judiciary, why the action by Chief took place when you were in the know that this man announced that he was going to carry on self-immolation on the 8th of this month. And we did not see any security system in following these activities to make sure, because that place is considered as the last ground in terms of justice or security-wise. You should be up to the tax. Why you did not provide security to make sure that this man should not carry on this after he announced publicly that he was going to do it, and you left there, you saw it happening before even it announced it. Is it that there's no security system at the court or the judiciary?
You know, I don't want to be rhetorical. I don't want to put it back and ask if you expected that we put a 24-hour surveillance on Mr. Gbotoe. Is that what we were supposed to do? So we don't have the capacity to do that. No. I mean, somebody can give you the address and say, if my wife leave, I'll keep myself, then decide that I will go and put security on 24 hours. Or somebody say, if job here, Mr. Rennie, you fire me, I will kill myself, then you will go. I don't think we have that capacity to do that. We didn't have the capacity to do that. So we couldn't do that. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
You know, ladies and gentlemen of the media, my boss was supposed to do the housekeeping. So what we're going to do for you is to allow my boss on Thursday to do the real housekeeping in addition to some of the issues that you may find necessary that you may not have covered here today. We will ask that you liaise with my Director of Press and Public Affairs, because on Thursday he will mount the podium and stand behind his microphone. If you have something that you want him to touch on, you'll be more than willing. Before I say thank you, there are a couple of observations real quick. That has to do with the Honorable Speaker, the person of Honorable Ma, is not the Finance Minister. And when people mount the podium, we expect journalists to ask them questions that relates to the subject matter or within the area of discipline that they're covering. On the issue of the age of the Chief Justice, he made it clear. I cannot say to you right now what his age is. It's like saying you will be forced to be his mother or father. So that's something I believe you need to follow up on. It's not that government does not want to be clear with you, but you also need to be clear with the government. If that's something you are interested in, there's always the appropriate forum where you can make a follow-up. Last but not the least, before I give you this vote of thanks, a lot of journalists have been calling me to ask me as to what did you mean when you say you hope the media learn a thing or two from the American media. My answer to you is simple. There were claims and counter-claims of victory. There were claims and counter-claims from all sides whatsoever. There was one in particular of fraud. But what did the American media do? They took into consideration national security, and they did not run with baseless and unfounded claims. You saw that many of the outlets refused to call the election in favor of either candidate for a particular reason. One, they did not want to be discredited. Two, they needed to be correct because people were on edge. Let us be mindful. And that was why I made the comment that I hope we learn a thing or two. Because at the end of the day, because somebody says, President Wiaga, $5 billion in continue to a non-street resident, boom, we run with it. There was an issue of fraud, nobody ran with it. $16 billion damaged our country image. It took a foreign partner that people requested, along with the FIU, and no $16 billion got missing. But the media ran with it. Chris Brown, a situation of a triangular relationship, goes to see a lady is stabbed multiple times and killed. Tyrone, sorry. And again, the media runs with it, and we have a situation where we're blamed as a government. The killer was found, prosecuted, sent to jail. Then we come to Chris Bailey in Bangapong County. A journalist was shot in the back. What did we hear? All kinds of things. I will not go into detail. Why are you not running with other parts? So we hope to learn a thing or two from the American media. Meaning, if we don't know the details and we do not have the facts, it's our responsibility as members of the media to come forward. Now, I did not hear anyone pressing Anthony Mann because the facts are there. The government did not owe anyone salaries. 2, the October pay has not come yet. And it was the October pay that the minister promised the addition will be made to, correct? I always said you set yourself ablaze before the money even comes for you to ascertain whether they pay you or not. So again, it's a very sensitive issue. I call on you, the members of the media, who are our friends and our partners, especially with this ministry. There's a new sheriff in town. I repeat, there is a new sheriff in town. We will not run after you, but the necessary checkpoints will be erected. We will still remain friends, but we all can learn from each other. Stop running with unnecessary news that have got no facts, only to stir up insecurity in our country. Let no crazy man jump on the hood of a car. My 2 friends know what I'm talking about. And tell you there's no money in the bank. And how are we surviving as a country? Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank all of you for coming. On behalf of the minister, I express our heartfelt thanks and appreciation to you, the members of the media. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday when the minister himself will mount the podium. Thank you.